Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Council acknowledges the Wadawurrung people, the traditional owners of the lands, waterways, and the skies we've been on today. We pay respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and we acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who make up the Greater Geelong community today. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet. The recording of the meeting will be published on the council's website. Good evening, everyone. My name is Trent Sullivan, and as the Mayor of the Greater Geelong Council, I'll be chairing the December Council meeting tonight. Thank you to everyone who is attending. We'd like to welcome everyone to City Hall, and hello to the community members who are streaming online as well. It's only been a short time since our most recent council meeting at the lovely Highton Bowls Club, but there's been plenty on. Our reputation as the Christmas capital of Australia has continued to be enhanced recently, not only thanks to the city's many initiatives, but also due to the number of events being held across the community. It's important at all times of the year to ensure that everybody in our community has access to services and support, particularly at Christmas. We know for various reasons not everyone is in a position to enjoy this time of year. I'm proud of the Council's role in helping to give back to those who are doing it tough. Earlier this month, the city partnered with Gen U to present the 2023 Geelong Awards for People with Disability. These awards, much like our Christmas and the community grants, contribute to Council's aim of promoting an inclusive, diverse, healthy and socially connected community in Greater Geelong. I want to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate all those who were nominated and to say well done to the award winners, Shannon Bowman, Paige Hum and Tim Hart. Now tonight's council meeting will be the last council meeting for the year, with our first meeting for 2024 scheduled for January 30th. But before we get into the meeting tonight, I've got a couple of statements which I'd like to read out on behalf of Council. The first one is in regards to the proposed waste-to-energy facility out at Lara. We thank the community who have raised their concerns with the Council about this proposed facility. I want to provide some comments on Prospect Hills International's proposed waste-to-energy facility at Lara, in that the development was given approval by Victoria's Environmental Protection Authority last week. As a referral authority, Council's formal role in the process was limited to providing advice and feedback regarding consistency with the planning scheme. However, on the back of the community concerns that we heard through this chamber and otherwise, we thought it was important to provide these concerns directly to the Minister for Planning, Sonia Kilkenny MP. I wrote a letter on behalf of the Council, and this was sent to the Minister on the 20th of September. We received a message from the Minister on the 14th of November noting the community concerns and registering our letter as an objection to the permit application. I'd like to reiterate the point I made last month's council meeting regarding our own circular economy and waste management strategies, and the council is not pursuing incineration methods, and it is not in our longer term plans, and it is not something that we support. I'd also like to touch on and confirm that there are no plans to change how we, as an organisation, will be marking the 26th of January next year, regardless of any discussion. Regardless of any discussion that will be held tonight, the initiatives that Council has endorsed in May will be going ahead in 2024. And before moving to the procedural items on tonight, I wish to wish everybody across the Greater Geelong region a very safe and Merry Christmas. We look forward to seeing you all next year in the chamber and online as well. Right, councillors, for this evening, I'll be asking for strict adherence to speaking time limits. For apologies and leaves of absence, so I didn't actually check. Councillor Maloney, can you hear me clear online? Sorted? Beautiful, 2 thumbs up. All right, councillors, we have 3 requests for leave of absence to consider this evening. First one being for leave of absence be granted for Councillor Mason from the 16th of January to the 22nd of January 2024, inclusive. Cover mover and seconder. Moved Councillor Mohi, seconded Councillor Hathaway. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That's carried. That leave of absence be granted to Councillor Wilkinson from the 3rd of January to the 21st of January 2024, inclusive, and 22nd of December 2023 to the 2nd of January 2024, inclusive. Copies of mover and seconder. Moved Councillor Mason, seconded Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? That's carried. and leave of absence to be granted for myself from the 20th of December to the 8th of January 2024 inclusive. Can we have a move and seconded? Moved Deputy Mayor Aiken, seconded Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? It's granted. Are there any other apologies or leave of absence to be noted for this evening, councillors? All good. Declarations of conflict of interest, and there are declarations of conflict of interest in relation to tonight's agenda. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
2.2, I have a conflict in relation to the Balmoral Quay amendment, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other conflicts to be known? Councillor Contell.
Yes, Mr Mayor, 2.2 for me as well. I've got a conflict of interest, got a family member that lives in that area, and also if questions 5 and 6 are going to be discussed in person here tonight, I'll declare a conflict for those as well.
No conflicts to be noted right now. If any do arise throughout the meeting, please make them known. Now, we do have to move the confirmation for the minutes going forward from the last meeting. In regards to the minutes for the meeting held on the 20th of November, we do want an additional noting that there was a submission from Janelle that was not included in the minutes that have been advertised, so we do have that noted that they will be included. With that, can I please have a mover and seconder for the last minutes? Moved Councillor Murray, seconded Councillor Hathaway. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. Right, we'll be now moving into public question and submission time. So that is the next item on the agenda. It is specifically available for questions and submissions rather than as a forum for discussion. In accordance with our policy, each person will be able to address the council for 3 minutes per question or submission, with no more than 2 questions asked or submissions made per person. A maximum time limit of 3 minutes applies to each question asked or submission made. Questions and submissions made prior or submitted prior to the meeting in writing will be considered first. I do note, however, there are questions relating to items on tonight's agenda, which are directed at councillors. Being item 2.2, Amendment C436GGEE and Planning Permit, Balmoral Quay Rippleside, consideration of submissions. As this item is being considered for tonight, councillors will be unable to answer any questions during public question time on that item or other items that are in relation to tonight's agenda. For those who have pre-submitted questions but not present tonight, responses to your questions have been published on Council's website and will also be emailed to you. It's also important to note that each councillor has read and considered the questions that have been sent in. So for tonight's meeting, we have received 14 pre-submitted questions and 1 submission from community members. I'm just going to read out the entire list of the names of the people who made the submissions and the topic for the public record. Then I'll be starting inviting people to come down to speak their questions or submissions. So ones we have received today already: Kim Fear, International Conflict; Sue Bull, International Conflict; Vicky Grosser, Notice of Motion 26 January Engagement; Sarah Mansfield, Notice of Motion 26 January Engagement; David White, Balmoral Quay; Julie Hannon-Smith, Balmoral Quay; Charles Street, Lara Big Incinerator; Vicky Perrott, Lara Big Incinerator; Jared Crow, Bus Shelters; Jennifer Banto, Osborne House; Margaret Phelan, Osborne House; Susan Alsop, Osborne House; Cheryl Scott, Osborne House; Michael Menzies, Osborne House; and John Virukos, which is a submission on Pakenham Street North, UDF. May I please have a show of hands in the gallery for the names I have read out. There's a few here. Excellent. I will now go down the list as I have read out. Is Kim Fear here this evening? How are you, Kim?
Hi, nice to see you all again.
You have 3 minutes per question, and when you start talking, your time will be yours.
Okay. Firstly, thank you to you, the Mayor, and the councillors for your response to my question at the last meeting on the 28th of November. We at Free Palestine Geelong welcome the Mayor's clarification that the term ongoing humanitarian ceasefire used in the statement by Council refers to a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. We thank you, the Council members, for recognising that a permanent ceasefire is the only way to end what has been described as a genocide in Gaza to stop the devastating loss of civilian life among Palestinian men, women, and children, and to vastly increase the volume of international aid entering Gaza in order to relieve suffering and avert the imminent threat of epidemic outbreaks. As you know, however, words are meaningless unless supported by action. I note that since the last council meeting, council's statement has been posted on the City of Greater Geelong website. However, I've seen no other external action in support of the statement, including its call for a permanent ceasefire. This leads to my two questions tonight. The first is, what measures are being taken to action Council's call for a permanent ceasefire? Please explain each measure in detail, including the factors taken into account in making such decisions.
If you'd like to ask your second question as well, I'll answer it all in my comment.
Right. Second question is, how is Council working with state and federal members to action its call for a permanent ceasefire? Please provide specifics, including actions and timelines.
Thank you for your questions, Kim. So Council has made opposition on the current crisis clear at the November Council meeting. Council has called for the Australian Government to support an ongoing humanitarian ceasefire, as well as endorse their call, that of the Australian Government, for the immediate unconditional release of all hostages and to work quickly with the international community to facilitate the delivery of life-sustaining aid to all in the need of humanitarian support. And that will be my overarching answer to all questions on this international crisis this evening. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. As I said, Kim, this is not a statement or a forum for back and forwards, unfortunately. I'll be answering that to all questions on this crisis this evening. Thank you all. Is Sue Bull here this evening? Sue Bull? Sorry, Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr.
Microphone's working.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kim, for the question and for Free Palestine Geelong being there. I understand the disappointment. All I can say is that if there are specific actions that you would like to see Council doing, please get in touch and councillors can discuss those. Not in the chamber, but anything that's sent to Mayor I will raise in councillor-only time with my fellow councillors in terms of specific actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. How are you, Sue?
Good, thanks.
Excellent.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You've more or less told us how you're going to answer it. But I felt at the last council meeting, I asked a question and I do not believe it was answered by the Mayor's statement on November 28, 2023. Many councils around Australia are actually allowing their elected councillors to have a debate in front of residents regarding the atrocities being committed in Gaza at this very moment. Why does the City of Greater Geelong persist with a mayoral statement rather than a public debate about an issue that is traumatising so many residents in this community, our community, when we know that at least 2 notices of motion have been tendered to this council?
Thank you for the question, Sue. Would you like my answer?
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
All right. So Council has made its position on the current crisis clear at the last November Council meeting. Council has called for the Australian Government to support an ongoing humanitarian ceasefire, as well as endorse their call, the Australian Government, for the immediate unconditional release of all hostages and to work quickly with the international community to facilitate the delivery of sustaining aid to the need of those in humanitarian support. Thank you, Sue.
Can I just ask, it's not a follow-up question, but can other councillors say something? Can other councillors say why we're not having a debate?
Councillors wish to say something. Apologies.
Hide behind your little piece of paper.
As we stated, that'll be the overarching answer from all questions on this topic this evening. Thank you, Sue. Councillor Hathaway?
Human, you're accountable to us. You should be human about this.
We're not allowed to have discussion in the chamber on this issue. on the grounds that it may incite violence. That is the advice that's been provided to councillors.
That's just rubbish. That's out
Plus more. Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Is someone from Vicky Grosser here this evening to ask a question? Vicky here this evening? Thank you, everybody. We'll have people who pre-submitted the questions to ask them. Vicky? Thank you, Vicky. How are you, Vicky? You doing well?
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and councillors. Thank you for taking this question. I'm President of the Geelong 1 Fire Reconciliation Group and honoured to be here and speak on behalf of our group. I'm also the non-Indigenous member on the Killinjit Aboriginal Advisory Committee, and I know that the proposed motion around 26th of January has caused a lot of distress for members of that committee, and appreciate the decision that you have made. I first of all would like to acknowledge that we, and I am on Wadawurrung country. It's beautiful country and waters that we're on, which has had a really troubled history, where if we're talking about warfare, certainly frontier wars have been and still have an impact on this country. And I'd like to acknowledge all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live here and who are present in the room, and some who weren't able or didn't choose to come here this evening. We in Geelong 1 Fire have been concerned by the motion, the notice of motion that has been put on the agenda this evening. So we'd be interested to hear whether the decision to go ahead with 26th of January process as previously decided after the fantastic consultation process that took place in 22 to 23, whether that motion is now dropped or whether it will still be on the agenda later this evening. And we think the processes and the process and the outcomes have been considered a model by the reconciliation movement in Victoria, and so we're delighted that things will progress and that most of us in this room who want to be a part of that progression can continue to follow with you and back the First Nations self-determination in where we go from here to hear all of us on this country. So my question is, has the motion been withdrawn or will it be attended to in another way? We've got a few members asking for clarity on that. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Vicky. I don't see a pre-submitted question and then touch on your amended one just then. So Council will continue to act in strong and principled manner and continue to further develop our relationships and inclusivity with our local First Nations people and broader community. Our commitment is mirrored and driven in part through our multicultural portfolio as well. As councillors will be making a decision on this matter this evening, we're unable to provide you with super clarity and a response at this time. However, we can assure you that councillors have heard your comments and will be considering these during the debate. In terms of how the notice of motion does not affect the current plans for January 26, 2024, that's because the notice of motion doesn't actually call for anything to change within those timeframes between now and then.
Does that mean that effectively it could be a proposal that's carried forward for the following 26th of January?
If it was to be successful, the community consultation that it's calling for may have an effect. But we're unsure until that's 2 steps down the line if the spot proceeds.
After this evening's agenda.
We'll see it. It will be on this agenda and items will be discussed as they are listed on the agenda.
Thank you very much. We look forward to hearing a positive outcome. I would like to say to Councillor...
For discussion to and from Vicky, I do apologise. I've got to go through everybody who has pre-submitted a question first before we open up for discussion or submissions from the team.
Sure. I would just like to acknowledge that some good work has been done by councillors in the past, and we look forward to that shift forward now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vicky.
Advised by council. Thank you.
All right, is former councillor colleague Sarah Mansfield here this evening? All right, the response has been sent to Sarah Mansfield MP for a question that was submitted. Is David White here this evening? David White? Julie Hannon-Smith. Yep, I'll just ask Councillor Contel wishes to leave the chamber before we have a discussion. We'll just hold on, Julie, so Councillor Contel can...
Yes, of course. Okay, it's only a statement, it's...
I understand, but it's fair conflict.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank councillors and council officers for being present tonight. I know we'd all rather be somewhere else at the moment, but here we are. And I start with making a statement that back in November last year, it was a complete surprise to community members of Rippleside that an agenda item appeared. That was Amendment C436 and Planning Permit PP 573/2021, which was promptly passed by councillors to allow the first stage of an amendment to the current urban design plans of Balmoral Quay development. And it commenced what we now have as the merry-go-round of public exhibitions, submissions and development change shenanigans. I'm joined tonight by community members, and I wish them to stand and thank them for coming along, given the shortness of our... Thank you. Okay, so the past year has seen our Rippleside community take the situation seriously. We've submitted a petition, we've undertaken resident safety surveys, we've held community meetings, we've engaged positively with our local state members of parliament and provided written feedback of resident concerns to councillors. Alas, acknowledgement of these concerns have actually received tokenistic replies by council officers, and in the case of a letter from Jeff Herriot sent on November the 7th to councillors, it's received no formal response at all. Residents have formally objected to the amendment, largely contributing to the 173 submissions, and by way of a group objection, there were 419 signatories to that. Notwithstanding these numbers, the points raised in the objection include, above all, the new height precedent set for the waterfront. It more than doubles what's been approved. The obvious problems to the area by decreasing on-site car parking and the issues of increases in traffic. Let's not forget the fact the applicant has an existing permit for a 4-storey apartment block. This, together with the rest of the development, more than fulfills all directives regarding the encouragement of medium density development. So why are we here tonight? Because the key recommendation put to councillors tonight by the Planning Department does not reflect the strength of these views, nor enable councillors to exercise their decision-making power to vote on other options available to them as councillors. I'm questioning the way council officers have informed councillors in this matter, which does not allow them to have a different view. The council should have been told that besides referring submissions to a panel, it has the authority to reject or abandon the application or to make changes to the proposed amendment to avert the threat of a 7-storey building on this absolute suburban waterfront. My question is, why isn't point 8 under key matters of the report used as the basis of recommendation for voting options by councillors? What they choose to recommend is not in question. It's why they haven't put up the full range of actions available to council.
Thank you for the question, Julie. As noted that this is an item that's coming to us for discussion tonight, councillors can't actually give you a direct answer on this, but I can go to Acting Director of Planning and Design for a response for the issues raised.
Thank you for your submission to the amendment and your question to Council tonight, Julie. City officers have prepared a report on the submissions to the amendment. This enables Council as the planning authority for this amendment to meet its obligations to consider submissions under Section 22 of the Planning and Environment Act. The Council must then make a decision under Section 23 of the Act, either change the amendment in the manner requested by the submitter or refer the submission to a panel or abandon the amendment or part of the amendment. These options are explained in paragraph 8 of the council report, followed by the city's recommendation to refer submissions to a panel. Council can resolve to take a different option to that recommended and may seek assistance from officers to draft such an alternative resolution.
Thank you, Julie. All right, Charles Street. Oh, yeah, Jean, you proxy for Charles? I really appreciate it.
Which is a hard task.
Indeed. How are you this evening?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Just for the record, my name is Jean L. and I live in Highton, but I'm here tonight to read questions on behalf of Charles Street and Vicky Perret. And thank you for your response earlier about the incinerator. I just want to clarify whether that statement and the letter that you've included in your statement or reference will be reflected in the minutes.
Yes, I believe they were published on the council's website, but they'll be noted in the minutes. We can make them an attachment.
That'll be fantastic, thank you. And then just before I read, I'm just going to quickly say I was shocked, horrified, and quite saddened to see the notice of motion. I think it's disrespectful and hurtful.
And I understand, Charles.
Anyway.
We're going to be doing Charles, yeah. We're
Right.
going to stick to it. Thank you.
Let me go to Charles's question. He asked, he introduced his question and said, we note with alarm that the EPA has approved the Lara Big incinerator proposal in the absence of an independent environmental impact assessment, any emergency procedures, and in the absence of any demand from the public or the City of Greater Geelong. Looking at pages 11 and 25 of the current City of Geelong Community Plan, how does the approved incinerator contribute to, 1, the health and well-being profile of our community? 2, how does it contribute to the best practice environmentally sustainable design principles and vibrant neighbourhoods? And 3, support our community and region to reduce emissions and build up resilience to climate change?
I thank Charles for his question, if you're reading it, John. So the strategies and plans referenced guide how we operate as an organisation and where we invest our resources. Permit decisions made by the state government on this project, which is a permit for construction at the moment, not operation, based on state legislation such as the State Environmental Protection Policy, Climate Change Act, and the necessities of the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme. That's that one. Thank you.
Charles' second question. The City of Greater Geelong prides itself on its excellent new business support services. Having been in the planning and approval pipeline for over 2.5 years, Council's business support services would have evaluated the Lara Big Incinerator business plan in some detail, ensuring that the business is viable, sustainable, and ethical in every particular way. So Charles's question is, how does the Lara Big Incinerator business case compare with the business cases for alternatives such as reducing consumption, reusing materials, and recycling in the City of Greater Geelong?
Bring that one out, Sean. So, pretty straightforward answer. The waste energy proposal on Lara is a private enterprise, and Council's business support services do not review private projects as part of the Council's role. It's not part of our role, and I have no information saying that we have had any part of reviewing their strategies. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John.
If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, may I remain to read Vicky's questions?
You're Vicky Perrett's proxy as well?
Yes, I am.
She's next one off the list, so please.
Thank you. Last week, the EPA granted a development license to Prospect Hill International to pursue its plans to build a massive waste incinerator in Lara, an incinerator that's capable of burning 400,000 tonnes of waste per year. The community is in shock. The license gives a company with no waste industry experience no feedstock contracts, no offtake agreement, and no social license, but with a variety of unanswered questions, the green light to design, build, and commission what is in effect a toxic fossil fuel plant adjacent, and that's the thing, to burn adjacent the Viva's LPG storage facility. A 2018 study has found the Netherlands' youngest, best available technology incinerator, Reststoffen Energie Centraal in Harlingen, is not clean or safe. Long-term tests reveal emissions of dioxin, furan, and persistent organic pollutants far beyond the limits set by the EU laws. In fact, last month, French authorities issued a warning across 410 municipalities, and they warned residents, they instructed them to not eat eggs from their backyard chickens due to unsafe levels of forever chemicals. Now, this question is specifically for the Council, not in terms of that, the EPA's decision, but in terms of what will the Council do. So will Council instruct the CEO to organise expert briefings for councillors so they can be adequately informed about the potential impacts of this facility on public health, land values, the physical amenity, the environment, and the city's net zero ambition?
Thank you for reading out Vicky's question there, Jean. So I'll just do some overarching statements and then get into the nitty-gritty of that one. So as I mentioned before, Council is listed as an objector to this application. Permit decisions by the state government on this project are based on state legislation, as I said, such as the State Environmental Policy, Protection Policy, Climate Change Act, and the Greater Geelong Planning Scheme. As such, Council will not be preparing expert briefings to inform councillors on the impact of the incinerator. However, all state government reports and briefings will be circulated to councillors. Right now, we don't feel the need to direct the CEO to give independent briefings to councillors, because as when the ward councillors and the wider councillors have asked for meetings to be had on this, they have been had and granted as necessary. EPA Victoria are holding a community meeting today, as many people will know, so the community can learn more about the decision for approving the development licence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's exactly why I'm here, for Vicky and Charles, because they're attending that meeting. Vicky's second question: waste incinerators are well known to be very hungry beasts that need constant feeding to run efficiently. Prospect Hill initially claimed Geelong and the surrounding region would supply 140 tonnes of waste annually. However, from 2025, Barwon Water's regional organics network will start taking food waste from our red bins, which will further reduce the waste supply. It's also most unlikely that Prospect Hill will attract waste from Melbourne, as the Recover Energy Australia is progressing its plans for a 200,000 waste tonnes per year gasification plant in Laverton. At the November Council meeting, Mr. Mayor, and you referenced that earlier, you stated that none of our planned rubbish strategy in the future involves any plans towards incineration. It's not involved in our strategy, and we don't plan on including it. It appears, therefore, that our city does not want nor need this facility. The community is nervous about where the waste will come from to feed this beast to operate efficiently. It's unfair to impose the safety risks and toxic pollution on Geelong residents from burning the waste from other locations. Section 1, subsection 8.1 of the Local Government Act states that the fundamental role of a council is to provide good governance in its municipal district for the benefit and well-being of the municipal community. Bayside and Randwick City Councils supported the community to successfully oppose Matraville's incinerator plans. And I think in a sense you have responded to that. the question was, will council work with the local community to oppose the Prospect Hill waste to energy plant? But I think collaboration is probably at the heart of this question.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. So as mentioned before, absolutely, council is listed as an objector to the application, as many residents are, and will continue to represent and listen to the concerns of our residents. As referred to in our statement, the City lodged an objection with the Minister for Planning on 20th September, and the planning permit for this application will be determined by the Minister for Planning. As a referral authority, Council's formal role in the process is to provide independent advice and feedback regarding the applicant's consistency with the planning scheme. However, I know that our Windermere Ward councillors and many other councillors as well have been actively engaged with the community and their concerns and how we represent them. And I do believe, since we are a formal objector, there is capacity for us to increase our collaboration in the future, as you said. Thank you. All right. Jared Crow. Is Jared here this evening? Jared? Go to Jennifer Banto. Is Jennifer here this evening? There we are. Good evening, Jennifer.
Evening.
How are you?
Councillors and officers. Thank you for your patience. Jennifer Banto, member of the National Trust in Victoria. The Trust's been represented on the Osborne Park Association for over 20 years, firstly by Captain Chris Gordon and myself since 2012. The Osborne Park Association is an incorporated, not-for-profit group of volunteers with many local cultural groups as members. The cricket clubs using the two ovals, originally the Philip Russell Private Cricket Ground and the horse racing track, are also OPA members. OPA is listed in the Geelong Community Directory in this way. The combined membership of all the groups represented by OPA is many hundreds of your constituents. To their credit, the OPA group has stuck together, continued to meet every month, and maintained their commitment to the property since being locked out for 7 years. The aim of OPA is to work towards restoring the heritage of Osborne House and grounds and securing a future for the entire property. The area extends from Corio Bay to the Princess Highway, not only the buildings at the Corio Bay East End. This includes the original entrance gateway at 241 Melbourne Road, made of cast iron and the same materials as Osborne House. The pillars are bluestone with Barrable sandstone capping. At the City of Greater Geelong Council meeting in February 2020, the item 4 resolution was Osborne House Sustainable Development Plan. Within the report, under the community engagement paragraph, membership of the project reference group was defined to include a local National Trust rep. I've been that rep in the group since then to contribute to the assessment and evaluation of proposals regarding the Osborne House Sustainable Development Plan. Now, my first question is about funding for Osborne Park restoration. We've had a lot of different information, and I thought it would be good if it could all be put in one report. The income streams from the sale of the old Geelong Jail and the former Geelong Post Office, if the income from those sales has been attributed to the Osborne House, which was the intention. Proceeds from the lease of the Osborne Park former polo ground, that was also decided to be put towards Osborne House. And then in the recent budget, there's also an allocation for remediation works to bring Osborne House to an occupiable state. So my question is, could Council please provide a detailed financial statement for Osborne Park income, expenditure and current balance, specifying the above income streams?
Thank you for your question, Jennifer. Because this one is a bit of a complicated one on the administration side, I will go to our new Executive Director of Placemaking, Neil Bradley.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, and thanks for your question, Jennifer. Osborne House is not a separate entity within the City of Greater Geelong financial statements, so information concerning the current financial year budget and the items that you've mentioned and forward financial forecasts are available in the budget book, which is publicly available on our website.
And Director Bradley is correct in that, we do have a lot of processes going to general revenue unless they are specifically listed as going to a separate ones. So we might be able to work in the future of getting a summary and a clearer picture of finances in the future, but we'll go to Deputy Mayor Aiken, who has his hand raised.
Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you for the, Jennifer, thank you for the question. I'm probably not content with the answer that you've received either as a councillor, because I think it doesn't actually respond to the question that you've actually asked for and the information. So whether that actually suggests that you can put in a further question and I'll follow it up on your behalf, but I don't think, I read your preamble and your question actually suggesting that you're wanting to know what lease money had been received and how it was actually spent and those type of things, whereas the response is a bit of a cookie cutter response about this is a budget item and go and look for it in the budget. So if you want to rephrase your question, I'm happy as a councillor that has a great interest in that area to try and follow through with much more appropriate responses. Yeah.
You mean rephrase it now?
So sorry?
Do you mean to rephrase it now or?
No,
Please say now and
won't be
follow up.
answered now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can rephrase it and send it to me, I'll follow it up for
Good,
you.
thank you,
Jennifer.
that'd be good. Because
That's what we
sometimes
can
the
do.
budgets are a bit incomprehensible when you're not an accountant.
Bob it in there. Jennifer, you have a second question you
Yes, I
submitted.
do, thank you, Mr Mayor. The second question is about how heritage properties can be used by the community and managed, and examples of other heritage properties as comparable to Osborne. Examples of local government-owned buildings. The Knox Council, for instance, has 3 fabulous, very big heritage properties, council-owned. Also, Greater Dandenong owns Heritage Hill, Mornington Peninsula owns the Briars, and Mirabel Shire has Blacksmith's Cottage. Most local government has some wonderful heritage place that the council owns that is a great attraction and tells the history of that particular locality. These examples are publicly accessible and financially self-sufficient. Volunteers undertake gardening, guiding and promotion. Income is raised by weddings and events, hire, school and bus groups, filming and merchandising. To some extent, National Trust properties operate this way with members, particularly in the regions, not the big Melbourne properties. They have staff, but most of the regional properties rely on volunteers. Parks Victoria manage 300 heritage properties owned by the state, such as Werribee Park, which is comparable to Osborne. Council can establish committees of management. I believe that's under Section 86 of the Local Government Act. Sports venues are managed by community groups in Greater Geelong. There's a lot of talent in the community that can handle these things. Proper conservation of Osborne enhances understanding of the region's wool industry, the history of that. Robert Muirhead, who built Osborne Park, the whole property, 1857 after pioneering Yarram Park in 1844. Yarram Park's still one of Victoria's largest working sheep stations. It's a Baillieu property now. Bowen River wool scours and woolen mills, waterfront wool stools and the auction exchange demonstrate Geelong's history to residents and visitors. Osborne Park does this as the city's northern entrance tourist destination. Public-private partnership proposal, a public-private partnership proposal may not enhance the heritage values of Osborne House. Could Council please investigate comparable examples of local government and state-owned heritage places to best determine the future community use and management of Osborne Park?
A question, Jennifer. I'll go to Director Bradley again for a quick answer.
Jennifer, the City is implementing the Council Resolution of 23rd of Feb 2021, where the Council endorsed the implementation of an expression of interest process for Osborne House incorporating the house, stables, Council Depot being the former Russell Polo Field and the adjacent landscape. The expression of interest process is still active and is subject to commercial in confidence obligations. So we are working through it.
That's true, but this Osborne House is that we fully cherish its beloved status amongst the community, and so we fully understand the beloved status of Osborne House within the community and have been going through as many options as possible to see what the best model will be going forwards. But EOI is still out and it's still in confidence at the moment. Thank you, Jennifer. Is Margaret Phelan here? Sitting? Hi, Margaret. Excellent. I do hope I pronounced your surname correctly.
Righto, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'm Margaret Phelan and I'm a member of the Osborne Park Association. I have been for more than 10 years. I believe that Osborne House and stables are highly significant and should be carefully conserved and accessible to local community and cultural groups and generally visitation by the public. As I live close to Osborne House, I can readily observe the grounds and buildings and usually make a daily visit there and often have a chat with people who are passing through Geelong wanting to have a look. Quite a few of them are quite puzzled as to why the buildings appear abandoned. Some are really very upset about the Maritime Museum not being open. However, we just have to say we're going through the process of trying to restore it and get things going so that it'll be a major asset. But there's quite a bit of public feedback like that when they have a look at the buildings. They think it's abandoned. In the last 6 years since there have been no community groups on site, I've noticed an alarming increase in acts of vandalism and graffiti impacting on both the buildings and the grounds. The stables in particular, having all the windows smashed. The historic boat shed was another particular target for all these activities. Temporary security fences are constantly breached. A burnt out car wreck has been amongst the rubbish dumped on site. And there have also been several occurrences of people sleeping rough in doorways and behind the east wing and others living in cars on the ground. The caretaker's house, which I guess was built for a reason by the Corio Shire, hasn't been occupied for many years. So despite security patrols and alarms being in place, the vandalism continues, the latest examples being the trashing of the contents of the boat shed and the destruction of a garden bench seat on the cliff top overlooking the Corio Bay, a favourite spot of mine and lots of people. The Osborne Park Association has requested permission to occupy 3 ground floor rooms and toilet and kitchen facilities in Osborne House to at least give the appearance that the place is not abandoned and that people care about it. My question is, when can access to these nominated areas in Osborne House be provided?
Thank you, Commissioner Margaret. I'll go to Director again for a good response. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Margaret. City officers are working with the Osborne Park Association and subject to agreement, a community lease will be entered into shortly, which will enable the stables to be activated by the association. Efforts are being made to protect the site from acts of vandalism and graffiti, as well as dumping of rubbish and people sleeping on the grounds. Should it be observed in the future, please contact us and we'll respond to it.
So we appreciate your passion and hopefully this is going to get sorted very quickly, so I'm told. Thank you, Margaret. Susan Alsop here this evening. Hi, Susan.
For this opportunity, Mr Mayor, councillors, council officers. I've been a member of the Osborne Park Association for 20 years and My area of particular concern tonight is the stables. There's been a lot of work done on them because of water problems and subsidence. And somebody remarked the other day that something like $1 million has been spent on the stables. The collection's been assessed and catalogued, and there's some amazing pieces there. But we don't have any direction, after all this work's been done, to be able to benefit from this. Old buildings don't like being left vacant indefinitely. It does not do well. So the thing that I would like to talk to is the fact that Osborne House has an important national history, which is often, I think, perhaps overlooked, because not everybody is as well informed as most of the members of the Osborne Park Association. The Australian Defence Department leased the site originally in 1912, and that extended right through until 1929. The Royal Australian Navy is proud of its foundation years at Osborne House, where it established the first Royal Australian Naval College for training officers for the beginning of the Royal Australian Navy. And they welcomed two intakes, the first two intakes of cadet midshipmen at Osborne House prior to the opening of the permanent Royal Australian Naval College at Jervis Bay. And during the Defence Department tenure, Osborne House was also used in 1916 as a military convalescent depot for World War I soldiers, a Red Cross rest home for returned World War I nurses from 1917 to 1919. And from 1920 to 22, Osborne House was established as Australia's first submarine base. The stables have been the site of the Geelong Naval Museum collection since 1989, particularly pertaining to the period of the first Royal Australian Naval Officer Training College and the submariners at Osborne House. It's vital that the maritime items of historical and national significance maintain their connection to the site, and that efforts are undertaken to conserve and display unique objects for both today's audiences and future generations. Does Council agree that because of its nationally significant history, the naval collection of artefacts should remain on site?
Question, Susan? Yep, thank you. I'll go Director Bradley again for response.
Thanks, Susan. Following a comprehensive 2-year audit and cataloguing project, the City is currently completing the significance, valuation and conservation needs assessment of the Geelong Naval and Maritime Museum collection as part of the City's Art and Heritage Collection. Findings of these assessments will support a process to determine the best way to preserve and provide access to the collection, parts of which are identified as of local, state and national importance. Collections care and maintenance works continue with the context of the expression of interest process and the City's Arts and Heritage Collections policy.
We recognise their importance, and the work is currently being undertaken to see where they may sit in the end.
Yes, I gather, are people still using the building on a regular basis?
Sorry?
Are people still using the Maritime Museum on a regular basis, so it is regularly aired?
We can get the information to see how they're being looked after, and I would believe that the collection is being looked after in an appropriate way for arts and artefacts and items like that. Susan, if we go on to the second question you have submitted, if you could please.
In 1989, the Corio Shire Council designated the stables to commemorate the first cadet intake at the Royal Australian Naval Training College and to the preservation of naval history. The Shire President of the time, Councillor Mario Grigic and Councillor Neville Lewis, and also Henry Collins, who was ex-Royal Australian Navy, were tasked with establishing a museum, and they saw it as for the people, by the people. They contacted all the people that they could in Corio Shire and asked what they had in the way of naval and maritime items to add to the collection. So it took 3 years to establish and was officially opened on October the 3rd in 1991. Then shortly after that, well actually it wasn't after that, it was before that, the Port of Geelong Authority, they had their own collection, which they had in 1978, and it depicted the history of Geelong shipping and port activities. But it wasn't until 1992 that the Harbour Trust decided that their collection would be better at the stables at Osborne House. So in all of this time, when items have been collected and displayed at Osborne House in the stables, there's been a dedicated team of volunteers that have looked after the collection, expanded it, and made it available for public access. So, despite the fact that it's been closed to the public for more than 6 years, we're still getting visitors to Geelong who arrive on site wishing to visit the Maritime Museum. Given the collection is still housed in the stables at Osborne House, what is Council's proposal and timeline for reopening this irreplaceable collection to the public?
Your second question there, Susan. I will note that whilst we have gone over our allotted question time, I still will be getting an answer to your question and for the other people who have submitted the questions prior to the meeting as well.
I was going to say, I know the second one is difficult to answer because it's a work in progress, but having some idea means we can tell people who visit that...
Repeating it, absolutely. And Tim has got a great answer for you, so we'll go to Dr. Bradley.
As my last answer, a process is underway to determine the best way to preserve, interpret and provide access to the objects and stories showcased through the Geelong Naval and Maritime Museum. We're also implementing the Council resolution as of the 23rd of Feb 2021, which endorses the implementation of the expression of interest process for Osborne House. The expression of interest process is still active, and as I was saying before, it's subject to the commercial in confidence obligations. Separate to this, though, the ground floor of the stables has been made available for the Osborne Community House to activate. A lease for the purpose is currently in draft, and Council looks forward to seeing the site once again activated, and thanks the Osborne Association for their commitment to this site.
Thank you. Out of curiosity,
Really appreciated.
Do the...
we can follow up, we can maybe get some follow-ups on your questions.
Sorry, one question was...
What?
Other developments...
Susan, I do apologise, we do have to get through quite a few people, but we can have an officer come over to chat to you now. Is Cheryl Scott here this evening?
Through us another question.
Hi, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors and council officers. Pretty much a lot has been said about Osborne House so far, and as President of the Osborne Park Association, I would like to just explain who we are. We were established in 1999 as a result of a community group that met first under Jerry Smith to try and determine a future for Osborne House. That's 30 years ago. I was very young then, and sir, you were probably a small boy. We are a group representing a number of community groups. So our association as an umbrella group represents the National Council of Women, the National Trust, Geelong Society of Model and Experimental Engineers, the Corai Bay Camera Club, Vijax International Salon, the Vietnam Veterans Association, plus a number of individual members. And apologies if I've missed any of the groups just then. History is shared by us all. An extensive national, local and state history of Osborne House within Osborne Park has contributed significantly to the shaping of our own community. It is publicly owned, it's an asset, with councillors acting as custodians. History will also show that the Osborne Park Association has worked for over 2 decades to ensure that this public asset has a future, designed for the benefit and use of the community to whom it belongs. For over 2 decades, OPA members have been engaged in council committees, panels, meetings, focus groups and Zoom meetings during COVID, all of which has been completely voluntary. We worked with council officers during COVID over Zoom to determine a set of principles for an expression of interest process, which was ratified by Council in September 2020. And I was a member of the EOI Council Reference Group and now a member of the assessment panel tasked with evaluating a proposal put forward by the accepted proponents Gurner and Montgomery. On tonight's agenda, in the Quarterly Reports Community Plan 2021-25, item 3.22 states that expressions of interest for procurement activities have progressed and we continue to work towards finalising information to prepare a draft proposal for council endorsement. Now, I recognise the answers that have already been given with regards to commercial in confidence and so on, but can council please explain how and why activities have progressed when the assessment panel has not met since March and no determination has been made as to whether Gurner and Montgomery have met the council brief or followed the established principles?
Thank you for your question, Cheryl, and thank you for your work that you do as President of the Association. I will go through Director Bradley again for a response. However, this might be something we can do some further digging up on as well, as you brought some information to light there about works that have been happening. Director.
As expected, the response is similar to our others that were in the expression of interest process. It is subject to commercial in confidence obligations. If you have further questions, we can answer them in further meetings.
I think there's some additional information that can be added by the CEO.
Yeah.
He needs to borrow my microphone. There we are.
Through the Mayor, Cheryl, I just wanted to add that there is a letter that we have drafted and it is with the Minister for Planning and it relates to the length of the lease for the site. So that's what's referring to how it's progressed, and that's something that Council needed to write to the Minister on and didn't need to go through the association. So I just wanted to let you know that there has been movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Cheryl, you have a second question.
I'm not sure that quite answered my question as how it can be going forward.
We can follow up,
still.
yeah.
Okay, occupancy of Osborne House has already been raised as well, and I am aware, as you know, that there has been an offer of meeting rooms in the stables. This is yet to be determined and it's subject to the size of the space being made available and to the lease agreement being offered. It's been 6 years since all the community groups were locked out of the property. It was done on the advice of the external hygienist who was employed by the state government appointed administrators in 2017, who had detected mould in 9 of the 93 spaces of Osborne House and stables. All groups were relocated and their possessions cleaned and stored either on site or in council facility or disposed of. On the day that we were called into City Hall on the eve of Easter.
3 minutes per question. Thank you. Please continue, Cheryl.
On the eve of Easter 2017, the 6 tenant groups of Osborne House, the stables and the Polo Ground and their associated subgroups were called to a meeting at City Hall and advised that they would be locked out for an indefinite period of time. They were given an hour that afternoon to collect personal possessions.
Double standards, Trent.
We won't take interjections where people have exercising the democratic right to speak. Thank you. Cheryl, please.
6 years later, the mould has been treated, roof leaks have been fixed, 50-year-old carpets removed, security alarms and fire prevention systems have been updated, budget allocations have been made and $1 million spent on stabilising the stable's south wall. But still no community groups are allowed back into the facility despite several requests. Given the repeated delays in the EOI process and an indeterminate commencement date for any future development of the property and the vandalism occurring on site, this situation seems unfathomable. I am now advised that community groups are denied access to meeting rooms in Osborne House based on a 2021 Municipal Building Surveyor's report which deems the property unsafe. Given the property was quite safe during our 7 years of tenancy, could Council please explain the Municipal Building Surveyor's report identifying why community groups are denied specifically requested ground floor meeting rooms at Osborne House?
Second question then, Cheryl. I have a response from the Director.
The ground floor of the stables has been made available for the Osborne House to activate. A lease for this purpose is currently in draft, and Council looks forward to seeing the site once again activated, and we thank the Osborne Association for their commitment. And as I mentioned before, we are keeping closer attention to protect the site from acts of vandalism and graffiti as well as dump rubbish, people sleeping rough, and should you observe it whilst on site, please let us know.
I hope informed that we can make a copy of the Municipal Surveyor's report available to you, Cheryl, as well. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, councillors are allowed to give direction to officers, Cheryl. It's in the Local Government Act, but I'd certainly be encouraging the new CEO and the new executive team that starts from the 22nd of January next year to actually reconvene the assessment panel, to actually bring all the parties that were part of it. I understand yourself and Jennifer are both members of that assessment panel, and actually bring them all together to actually give an update of where the current status is associated with the expressions of interest, and actually develop a work plan and a timetable that actually can give confidence to the community and those people that were involved and the council group that this significant project is progressing and is meeting all the aims that council has set on numerous times through notice of motions and other requirements as well too. Now that's not a direction to our CEO, I'm just encouraging our CEO to actually hear what's just been said tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Cheryl. Just on everyone's information, I've been informed, unfortunately, there has been a 3-car pile-up on Ryrie Street. We hope nobody is hurt, but that may cause some delays when leaving this evening. I'll ask now if Michael Menzies is here this evening. Good evening, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Michael Menzies, President of the Geelong Museum Association. The Geelong Museum Association originated from a public meeting called by Rod Mackenzie, OAM, in October 1991. Approximately 200 members of the Geelong district attended that meeting, and as a result the GMA was established in July 1992, and we've met on frequent occasions at Osborne House. The GMA has been a member of the Osborne Park Association since it was established in 1999. We've been actively involved in meeting at Osborne House, holding events there and assisting to maintain both the house and its adjacent grounds for almost 3 decades. That's a significant contribution. We provide research, labour and rubbish removal during the restoration of the ballroom in 2016 and 2017, and that was a substantial cost saving to Council to restore the space for public use, but the public has not yet been in there. Associated with the ballroom was a project to renovate a kitchen to be used in connection with public events at the ballroom. The GMA contributed to the planning of the kitchen project and undertook to supply some equipment to be installed, purchased by funding that we had generated. We purchased and delivered items including a dishwasher, microwave oven to a value of approximately $2,500. Subsequent to the closure of Osborne House, the equipment purchased and donated by us for use in the kitchen was removed by Council and stored, and now some of it appears to be no longer able to be located. Any warranty on these items has now long expired. My question is, when is council going to return the items donated to it by us from its store and install them in the almost completed kitchen? Because there seems to be no reason why that can't be done. Thank you.
Understand your question. Thanks, Michael. Again, Director Bradley, please.
Michael. Unfortunately, Rippleside doesn't address that question specifically, other than letting you know that the process is underway to determine the future use. We need to go through that process, and it's still active. So until it's completed, we can't discuss that without compromising the integrity of that process.
Director. Thank you very much, Michael. I think we'll have a follow-up on this one as well. Appreciate your time. Right, I believe we have a submission to be made from John Veracruz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a submission from John Veracruz just in relation to the North Paco UDF, and John expresses his views and gives some thoughts on the community panel that's in the process of being set up. So, without speaking on any further, I'll table that submission, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. That now concludes question time for the evening. Thank you for all the submitters and the questioners who have submitted and come up here to speak to us. I'll now move into petitions and joint letters. Councillors, are there any petitions to be tabled?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
We've passed, apologies sir, question numbers finished for the evening. I extended it so that everybody who pre-submitted a question had time to ask it, but we're not taking questions from the floor now. Thank you. We're going to petitions and submissions. Petitions and joint letters. Thank you very much, everybody. We don't accept motions from the floor, I'm afraid. Everybody, we're going down to... If we continue with interjections, I will be forced to adjourn the meeting if it can't be ordered in an orderly context. Anyway, we wish to proceed with the meeting. Can we please have order in the chamber, on the floor? Thank you everybody for your attendance tonight. Greatly appreciated. We'll pause for a moment while everybody wishes to leave the chamber does so. Much everybody. Councillor Mayoral.
The chair is pathetic.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a petition to table. It's from Volunteering Geelong, and they're expressing their views about a permanent home for themselves. They are in the building that Bowen Health Foundation have recently purchased, and I guess feeling a bit under threat there, and they've had discussions with council in relation to finding a home at Geelong West Town Hall, a meeting room there. So there's a petition, there's 89 signatures that have signed in the hope that that might move officers to look favourably in their direction about locating a permanent home for themselves. So I'll table that petition.
Thank you very much, Councillor Murray. That petition is tabled.
Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Contell.
Yeah, I do apologise, but I've identified another 3 conflicts of interest.
Okay.
So if I could just note those. One being 2.3, Southwest Geelong Employment Land. Bowl is a customer of the company of which I'm a director. And 2.10 and 2.11 respondents to those tenders are also customers of a company of which I'm a director.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Right. Now, normally we would be moving into section 2 reports here this evening. However, we do have an item in section 3, which is a notice of motion, which I'll be bringing forward down the agenda as there is considerable interest in this item here tonight. So I'll officially be moving forward into section 3, notices of motion. This is by Councillor Contel, 26th of January engagement. Can we have a mover and a seconder for this notice of motion? Moved Councillor Contel. Any seconders? Seconded by Councillor Nelson. Thank you. Please, we won't have any objections. We won't have any objections for discussion. If we wish to progress this, and have this table discussion, we'll have it done in an orderly manner. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. One moment. Wait till you find out and see what happens. Okay, thank you.
Mr Mayor, I would like to raise a procedural motion for closure and that the substantive motion be put to the vote.
So that's procedural motion, point 3, the closure?
Correct, Mr Mayor.
Okay. So what's happening, the procedural motion has been raised. I'll put this to the vote now. And the procedural motion, if it's successful, will go straight to voting on the substantive notice of motion. If not, debate will be had in the chamber on the original notice of motion. That's what's happening right now. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Murray? Councillor Wilkinson, you have a second on this? All right. Therefore, I have to put this one, I see everyone's online, we're all good. So I put the procedural motion to move to the closure of this one to the vote. All those in favour? The procedural motion passes. So now I have to put this immediately to the vote, the notice of motion straight to the vote without discussion. Of the notice of motion, all those in favour? All those against? Still trying to carry out the meeting, please. We won't have any jetting. We're still trying to carry out the meeting. Please, everybody, let us continue. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Councillor Contel. Everybody's right. Order in the chamber. Everyone, please, let's continue this in a civil manner. Councillor Contel. I'm not sure if we can call division on procedural motions. Yeah, we can find out. Absolutely. So I'll just pause a moment while I find governance clarification. 1 second, please. Everyone, please, again, we will not have cheering from the chamber floor. So Councillor Contel has called for division, both on the vote that was happened on the procedural motion and on the vote that was on the notice of motion at its closure. These are things that we can do and you can request. So I'll now call for a division, or he's called for division. I'll ask for a repeat of the vote on the procedural manner, how that was voted upon. So everybody who voted in favour of the procedural motion, can I please have your hands raised again? So that was in favour of Councillor Mohi, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Maloney, Councillor Mason, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Harwood. All those who voted against the procedural motion was Deputy Mayor Aiken, Sarah Hathaway. Did you vote against the procedural motion? Thank you. Councillor Contel, Mayor Councillor Sullivan, and Councillor Nelson. So that's the first division. Therefore, now we'll go back to the vote that was had for the notice of motion. So all those who were in favour of the notice of motion, this is the division we're calling. So let's vote in favour, please. All those in favour was Councillor Contel and Councillor Nelson. That's written down the division. All those who were against the notice of motion voted in the negative. That was Deputy Mayor Aiken, Councillor Murray, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Hathaway, Councillor Maloney, Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Mason, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Harwood. Division has been called and answered. With that, we'll now be moving to section 2, reports for the evening.
Apologies, Mr Mayor. Can I ask for 5 minutes?
We'll have a 5-minute break, sorry, apologies, so people can go to the bathroom and refresh a glass of water before we move into section 2. And anyone who wishes to leave the chamber will. So for 5 minutes, anyone who wishes to go to the bathroom, please.
Thank you. Those who voted against that.
Right up.
Can we talk up? Sure? Okay. Hey, you do it. These
Well, I've never seen that before.
You want to be a smart ass, but you could ask the suspensions, then you will see. Could have done that if you wanted to, because they did all that work to gag, and that's how the council operates, and we saw that last meeting where Bruce and I were 4 and 9, and they were credible on the last one. And then
I do apologise, that was log on, so I understand. I did, no, I do apologise.
Submission and the petition. Yeah. Give it to you. Just want it off my desk. Thanks, Doug.
I've not passed my probation.
Oh, just notice you're not a councillor.
There's nothing.
And they've got you.
I prefer you being here.
Look what they did to me. What I
All right, I do believe I've got everybody back. Thank you, everybody. We are moving now into section 2, reports for this evening. The first section of reports is the Youth Council Final Report 2023. Do I have a mover in Councillor Hathaway and a seconder in Councillor Wilkinson? With that, I would like to invite up Junior Councillor Elena Eftikari to come make the presentation on behalf of the Youth Council. Give her a clap on the way up. Our Deputy Junior Mayor. Welcome, Elena. How are you? Excellent. Now you have to share this microphone.
Okay.
So it'll be yours. And you don't need to have much time for 5 minutes. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Okay, thanks. Youth Council would like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung people, the traditional owners of the land, waterways and skies, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of our Greater Geelong community today. Good evening, Mayor Sullivan, Greater Geelong councillors and directors, Youth Council representatives and community members here tonight. Youth Council members have reflected on our year in Youth Council and would like to take a moment to thank everyone who has been involved in the program, including program facilitators, councillors and all guest presenters who have engaged with us throughout the year. This year, Youth Council participants have been involved in 9 events, 9 workshops, participated in 5 training sessions, 13 Youth Advisory Board meetings, heard from over 25 guest presenters at meetings, and after tonight would have presented 13 pieces of advice to Council. Youth Council participants will walk away from this year's Youth Council with heaps of experience, connections, confidence, and leadership skills that will enable us to continue to make a difference in our community. The Youth Council program has been a very unique experience and one all of us will cherish for years to come. For the final time this year, and in our term as Youth Council, I'd like to present our advice for Council's consideration. The 2023 Youth Council participants are excited to contribute their final piece of advice to youth-specific space for Central Geelong. Members are overwhelmingly supportive of all preceding advice in relation to youth space provided through previous Youth Council reports. The 2023 Youth Council believed that providing young people with access to a secure setting will have a positive effect on those who use its services and allow for young people to reclaim space within Central Geelong. This should be a setting where they can access services and supports as well as enjoyable activities. Youth Council believe that young people need to be involved in the planning and design of youth-dedicated space, but further believe that young people need to be the centre of the decision-making for the space from its initiation. Youth Council's first piece of advice is to ensure that widespread and place-based consultation is undertaken with many young people to ensure that the space is well received by young people and there is considerable buy-in from the youth community. Further to this, the opportunity to provide multiple opportunities and methods for young people to voice their opinions about the Central Youth Hub ensure that young people are genuinely listened to. Youth Council's second piece of advice is once the site is chosen, establish a youth committee through an expression of interest process where young people can sit on the committee to guide the activities and events at the space. Ensure this committee of young people play a key role in the opening of the space that enables young people to lead the event processes and take ownership over the new youth hub. Youth Council's third piece of advice to ensure that there is ongoing opportunities for all young people to participate in consultations throughout each stage of the social infrastructure process, where feedback and input can be considered in the design and delivery of the youth space. This concludes our final pieces of advice for the 2023 Youth Council. Thank you to all the young people who attended the Youth Advisory Board meetings over the year to inform our advice we have developed to ensure it is representative of young people in Geelong. Lastly, I would like to thank my fellow Youth Council members for joining me on this journey and sharing such incredible memories and stories that have made a lasting impact on our lives. We welcome the 2024 Youth Council and look forward to following their journey over the next 12 months. Thank you for listening and good night.
Round of applause, please, for Deputy Junior Mayor Alina Eftikari. Thank you for presenting the final presentation for Youth Council for this year. I would like to acknowledge the Youth Council as well in the front here who are here for tonight's meeting as well. Welcome. And with that, I'll go over to the mover of the motion, Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report asks Council to note the final Youth Council report drafted by our Deputy Junior Mayor, Alina. Alina, thank you for giving the report tonight. The final report provides input and advice on areas of importance to young people in our city, including input and advice relating to the youth designated space for Central Geelong, which we've heard about tonight. Youth Council have also thanked councillors for promoting the program in schools, and worth noting that this has resulted in more than 100 nominations for the 2024 program, highlighting how successful this program's been. So on behalf of council as mover, I want to thank Irene, Alina, Ari, Ashton, Max, Kiralee, Layla, Rebecca, Roland, Georgie, Anastasia, Simone for your time on Youth Council in 2023. We wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. We've got a second, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Junior Mayor Alina. Yeah, it's a really incredibly thorough report, and it's only been a small time that I've actually had the chance to work with the Youth Council, but I think, yeah, the city is in great, safe hands for the future, that's for sure, and I thank you. I thank you for all the work you've done and commend this report and the suggestion of the youth space with that collaborative, inclusive collaboration as well. Really impressive.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Other councillors to comment? Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's actually a shame that the gallery that was here 10 minutes ago aren't here now to actually watch our youth leadership that we have in Geelong. They've actually shown that they're measured, they've shown that they're thoughtful, and they're actually shown that they're respectful to other people as well too. And I think the values that we actually see in our Youth Council are something that the rest of Geelong should actually be aspiring to. The reality is these are our young people and our future leaders, and they're actually showing us how to behave and actually engage to be members of our community. So I actually applaud them. Every year I'm overwhelmed with joy with this particular program. It was actually came from a notice of motion of Councillor Aiken, so I'm really proud that a notice of motion can actually deliver something that is really good. But each year the Youth Council members raise the bar. You know, like I was so proud last year when I saw what was presented before us, and then this year I could not believe, you know, I felt like Juan Antonio Samaranch at every Olympic Games where he said, this is the best one ever. The reality is this year was the best Youth Council that we've ever received again, and certainly the representation that I had and Sarah had in the northern suburbs from the Windermere ward has been on display non-stop all year. Alina has come so far in being a leader, not just as a young person, but a leader of the Youth Council. She has stepped into the role as Deputy Mayor and then has performed the duties of Acting Mayor with such grace and with such influence. So thank you for that. And to Ali, who's my favourite person from the northern suburbs in the last 12 months, yeah, he's been fantastic. He just came over to me before and he said, said, gee, it's tough being a councillor. And I said, look, it is, but that's counterbalanced by the joy which we actually have with a project such as this in the program, which is the Youth Council. So to all our youth councillors for 2023, thank you for your service. Thank you for the contributions that you've actually made throughout your whole 10 months that you've been youth councillors. I hope to see you in the future as well too, whether it's on our advisory committees or whether it is the challenge that I issued last time that we spoke about as well too, that a youth councillor becomes a real councillor in the future, and that is, someone's got to do that one day. Maybe it's the 2023 councillors, youth councillors, one will come from that particular group. But certainly from me, I'm extremely proud of what you do. Thank you for the contributions that you made, and keep us honest, especially if the rest of the community won't do it with the same grace, pause and measure that the way you do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Well spoken, and I believe the goal to have a junior councillor become an actual councillor could very well be possibly realised in November 2024, when the elections are around. All right, any other councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor, and I too want to thank Alina for that presentation. You might remember your last meeting for all the wrong reasons tonight. I think you're in the front row, so that wasn't so bad, but to be subjected to what went on, you see the good and you see the bad, I guess. But I want to thank yourself and all the youth councillors for their work. As what has been said already, the youth continue to shine, and I thoroughly enjoy the program and the interaction with the youth councillors. And something that was spoken about and raised probably a couple of years ago now in relation to the youth hub, the possibility of a youth hub. So, I'm really hoping there's some good news around the corner regarding the youth hub, and that the youth council has been really advocating for. So I know the council are finalising a site location and consultation with the young people about a design, and I think that will commence in January. So again, to yourself and everyone else involved in the program, congratulations and well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any other councillors to comment? I'll go back to Councillor Hathaway to close.
Nothing further, Mr Mayor, thank you.
No worries. I also would like to pass on the congratulations from Councillor Maloney as well, who's online. She passes that on. So nothing further add, Councillor Hathaway. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? The final report. Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Thank you, Deputy Junior Mayor Alina Eftikari. Thank you for all the youth councillors who are here tonight and everyone in the youth team. Thank you all. Take care. Righty, item number 2, we'll just wait for Councillor Contel to walk out of the chamber. Item number 2 for discussion this evening is Amendment C436GGEE and Planning Permit PP 573-2021, Balmoral Quay in Rippleside, consideration of submissions. Do I have a mover in Councillor Murray? Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Mason. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The council has been asked to request the planning minister to appoint an independent panel to consider submissions relating to the amendment C436GGEE. This amendment seeks to allow the maximum building height in stage 5 of the Balmoral Quay Rippleside development to increase from 13.5 metres to 27 metres. It's combined with a planning permit application for the development of apartment complex at 1 and 11 Harborside Drive in Rippleside. This area, formerly known as Rippleside Shipyards, is the site of 1 and 11 Harborside Drive, and is 400 metres from the North Geelong station, Princess Highway. And the council resolved to support the preparation and exhibition of the amendment and planning permit on the 22nd November last year. The public exhibition occurred the 24th of August to the 25th of September this year, with notices sent to 144 owners and occupiers of the land close to the site, government authorities and prescribed ministers. And there's certainly been a lot of engagement. Drew a total of 173 submissions, including an objection petition with 419 signatures. So that's really noted. Of these, 167 submissions objected to the proposal, and there were 6 submissions either supported, did not object, or provided comments only. So the number of objections were consistent with the traffic, building scale and the height, the character, and overshadowing to Rippleside Park. It is this recommendation that the submissions be referred to an independent panel, and officers will endeavour to further resolve issues in the lead up to the panel hearing, which is scheduled for February 2024 if this is approved tonight. And officers will also engage an independent traffic expert to review the amendment, the planning permit application and traffic concerns raised by the submissions. Mr Mayor, in moving this motion, I'm not saying that I support the application within it, but what I'm saying is that I don't believe council should be the decision-making authority in relation to this, and that's why I support this going to an independent panel where those people who have put in submissions, and Julie, who that was a great question earlier on, have that opportunity to express their views. So I'll leave it at that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. To add to Councillor Murray's motion, under the Planning and Environment Act 87, Council must now either change the amendment as requested by the submitters, abandon the amendment or parts of it as requested by the submitters, or refer the submissions to an independent panel. As has just been said, there were 167 objections and there was one petition with 419 signatures, all coming through with similar themes of traffic, building height, character, overshadowing, and some quite difficult questions have been raised. Mr Mayor, this amendment is consistent with the state and local planning policies related to the delivery of urban consolidation, social and affordable housing, a range of housing types in well-serviced locations, environmentally sustainable design and urban design. As I said, it's also got a social housing component.
Thank you.
The amendment is consistent with the Social Housing Plan 2020 to 2041, Housing Diversity Strategy and Settlement Strategy. Mr Mayor, it goes without saying best planning policies and practices must be applied to all developments. And in this case, I see it also as most appropriate to delegate this to get an independent and expert panel to properly resolve the case, and where objectors also have an opportunity to have their say again. Meanwhile, officers will try to continue to resolve particular issues and will engage an independent traffic expert to review the traffic concerns raised by the objectors.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Please. Thank you. Any other councillors who wish to comment on this item? I do know as well, so Councillor Nelson, please. Not on, sorry, your microphone. Give the button a press. Maybe another one. It's not on.
Away.
There we go.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Like Councillor Murray here, I've certainly got some concerns with this. 27 metres is extremely high. I certainly wouldn't want to live in Rippleside and have a 27 metre monolith blocking my sunrise. I think it's appropriate that we send it off to the Planning Minister for an independent panel. I encourage everyone out there in the audience tonight not to go on holidays in February. Make sure you have your say. I've got concerns around traffic and I've got concerns around the social and affordable housing component there. I don't think it's enough. I think they're all multi-million dollar developments down there, and I think we really need to make sure we get on top of this, and so please have your say. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Absolutely. I endorse the words of what councillors have said before as well. A submissions panel to get some professionals looking at this, to have an independent traffic expert witness as well. I think it could be very positive and add to expertise in this decision-making process. So any other councillors to comment? Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you. I'm probably repeating what some other councillors have said, but I too share the residents' expressed concerns about this development, particularly the height increase and the impact on traffic and amenity. I do thank them for their committed advocacy, and note that if this amendment does get the support of council tonight, that there will be further opportunities for the community to have their say via the expert panel, and that also this amendment does actually recommend the engagement of a traffic expert witness, and that officers have committed to further resolve the issues that have been raised by the community in the panel hearing, which is scheduled for February 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. There's no other comments to be made. I will throw back to Councillor Murray. You move the motion, didn't you?
I've got nothing further.
Just nothing further? All right, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried for the submissions. I'll ask that Councillor Contal and Deputy Mayor can return to the chamber. Oh, yeah, 2.3, that was 2.2, you're right. Oh, no, actually, Councillor Contal has a COI with the next one as well, so it'll just be Deputy Mayor can return to the chamber. Conflict on 2.3 as well?
It's Barrel, councillor.
Yep, sorry, mate. Right, Deputy Mayor, you can just return the chamber. Councillor Contal is still out for 2.3. And 2.3 is the report, South West Geelong Employment Land Review, which is moved by Councillor Nelson, seconded by Councillor Harwood. Councillor Nelson, please.
Mr Mayor, this one might seem relatively boring and straightforward, but it's actually quite interesting, and I'll explain why in just a minute. This report asks Council to adopt the South West Employment Land Review and request the Minister for Planning advance the planning scheme amendment and implementation of the recommendations. It's Amendment C395, a Settlement Strategy Panel report. It's the area known as the Western Employment Precinct and the Boral Quarry, which might seem really boring unless you actually go out there and have a bit of a look. It's off to the right of Anglesea Road or to the left of Princess Highway on the way to Colac. And it's really interesting because it's currently a mine, a concrete mine, a lime mine, but the purpose of this is to see if we can change the use from industrial use to a mix of residential, employment and tourism. And I do note the ED of TGGB's here, Tracy Carter, because I went out there a few years ago with another councillor and had a listen to what Boral's vision was for this area, and it was quite extraordinary. But at the time, our town boundary ended, was it Gazapur Road or Gazapur Road, and then everything to the west of that was zoned commercial and industrial, not suitable for residential. But since the growth of Geelong, Council have changed their mind slightly, and we're trying to see what can be put out there. And I'll let councillors talk further, but it's kind of like the industrial areas out in industrial residential areas in the inner suburbs of Melbourne and how they've been transformed. And it's such an exciting space. But I'll let other councillors have their chance to have a chat.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson, and I'm sure in local government we'd never think planning or land economics would be boring. We'll go to Councillor Harwood.
Mr Mayor, I share the future view of this particular parcel of land, which has now been, they're joined with the Boral and the Western Industrial Precinct vicinity there. So these sites are currently nominated for future employment uses and should be planned holistically, which I guess is the key sort of phrase of the whole document about what it will mean for the region of Geelong and obviously the broader Armstrong Creek growth corridor, which is still growing, and the employment opportunities out there. But this represents a massive opportunity to look at how future land is developed to provide employment opportunities, obviously, but also potential recreational and tourism opportunities out there. It's not, we're not, well, I don't believe we're going to be looking at what we saw in the northern suburbs back in the 40s, 50s and 60s as such, and we saw heavy industry and it being very much solely that type of industry and that type of precinct. This has the opportunity to be a far broader precinct while providing many opportunities for varied and eclectic employment that we see today. There's a few good examples around where industrial precincts are actually shandied with some shop-top living or public housing, craft industries through there, and they're not traditional employment precincts or industrial precincts as we once knew them. So I'm hoping this provides opportunities for also even up to 1 hectare lots. It depends again on what the industry is offering, but it gives our opportunity to blend, as I say, through this particular area. So I guess the pluses are having a point of difference again in the Geelong region for companies and for industries in and around Victoria and also interstate to look at Geelong as being a point of difference where they're able to set up their business, whether it's a start-up or whether it's an established business, to come down to our region and set up down here and create that opportunity for our population growth, which will need different and varying jobs for the future. I think it was said even years ago now, we don't even know what jobs are going to be on the market in 5-10 years' time. So it's always interesting times ahead for us, particularly with the movement of technology. So I'll just make those comments. It's a huge opportunity, and if we grasp it correctly and we go through the process correctly, it'll be a huge win for Geelong and the region and for our residents down here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Any other councillors to speak on this item? If not, Councillor Nelson to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When I was there a few years ago, that tested my resolve on heights. It was pretty scary going up the top of that lift.
Only when it stopped.
Yeah, and it stopped. But the scope of this is endless. It could be boutique business parks, breweries, distilleries, as I mentioned the lift before, a zip line, aqua parks. It's just such an amazing opportunity, and probably in 10 to 20 years we'll see that come to fruition. So I'm really excited about this prospect down at Boral on the Whip. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
That put to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? The item is carried. Now I'll just wait for Councillor Contal to be readmitted to the room.
Yeah, they let us out once we got up, and I'm holding on to.
Right. Item 4 on the agenda is Northern Aquatic and Community Hub, facility naming, release for engagement. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move an alternative as a substantive motion,
Move on amendment.
and that is that council endorse...
Deputy Mayor Aiken, an alternative or an amendment?
Not an amendment. An amendment is actually when you pass an amendment to a substantive motion. I'm actually moving the substantive motion as an amendment.
Alternative, okay,
Yeah.
yep.
So in other words, what I'm doing, an officer's put up a recommendation. I've actually worked with the officers for an amended officer recommendation, and that's what I'm putting it up as a substantive motion, yeah.
Do you have a seconder?
I can actually point out the governance rule clause if you wish me to, Mr Mayor. Yeah.
Sure, you're all over it, but I'll just wait 1 second. Right. Alternative has been seconded by Councillor Hathaway, so Deputy Mayor Aiken, the floor is yours.
Mr Mayor, the motion I'd like to move is that council endorses the below 4 shortlisted facility names to replace the working name of Northern Aquatic Community Hub. First proposed name is Norlane Arc, which represents Aquatic Recreation and Centre. The second is Norlane Arc, which represents Aquatic Recreation and Complex. Option 3 is ACON, which is Aquatic Centre of Norlane, and option 4 is ACON, which stands for Aquatic Complex of Norlane, and that we approve the release of the shortlisted names for community consultation for a minimum of 6 weeks. And we note that a further report will be provided to council to formally adopt a preferred name, subject to approval by the Geographic Names Victoria. So I'm not sure why that's not, Marie doesn't have a copy of that, because Jackie actually wrote it. There it is. There we are.
Yep.
Mr Mayor, look, we actually have a community liaison committee that's been assisting us for well over nearly 2 years now for this project. It's fantastic to see one of the members in the community tonight. With the thinning numbers, we can now see Sandra Anderson, who sits on that committee. And the committee actually has spent a great deal of time to try to find a name that represents the aspirations of the community for what is the most significant investment by the City of Greater Geelong in the northern suburbs. The first clear process that came out was that the local community are very proud of Norlane, and they actually wanted the name Norlane to be embraced into any future name for the facility. It actually does, it is housed within Norlane, and the preference of the committee was actually to call it Norlane Arc and actually call it the Aquatic Recreation and Cultural. And unfortunately, Geographic Names Victoria said you cannot use the term culture in your acronym. You have to actually have a terminology that reflects the facility in its entirety. So as a consequence, the committee has actually put forward 2 embracing names and expanded that to either decide whether to call it a centre or a complex. A complex probably reflected that it's much more diverse than just an aquatic facility, but centre was adopted first off by Geographic Names Victoria as a preferred preference for the site location. The consultation process will mean we will go out to the community with those 4 names and seek their views on it, and alternative names as well too. We have actually had some comment from existing users that they would like to maintain the word water world in the facility, but the Community Liaison Committee is adamant that it's more than water world because it actually has the community hall as well too. I should say as well too that there are a number of sub-components. This is actually what's called the integrated name for the facility, and there are components of the facility as well too. And the committee has put forward an Indigenous term for the community hall to recognise the Indigenous community in the northern suburbs, and I do hope that that is adopted as well too. It's not mentioned in this particular report because it doesn't require to go out to public consultation and Geographic Names Victoria. We've actually learnt a lot about this process, the community, the officers and myself and Councillor Hathaway as well too, associated with it. And there may even be an opportunity if the community feedback that the pool hall area is actually called Waterworld, and there is that prospect that could be considered. The committee at this point in time has parked that component name, and I should actually say that I'm very pleased that the committee has actually presented some leaders and community champions that are now passed from the northern suburbs to actually be named after components, and there's a number of women and men that we intend to present to the council group to recognise leaders passed from the northern suburbs as well too. But this will be the official name of the whole complex out there if it is adopted by the council tonight through community consultation, and then it will come back formally as a name before council. And the committee, as I said, has done extensive work, have discussed multiple options, and been able to narrow it down to what's presented before council tonight.
Mayor Aiken. Councillor Hathaway.
Mr Mayor, without repeating too much, I guess I'll just add that there has been significant discussion in the community reference group to get to this short list of 4. I can see it very quickly locally just being called the ARC or the ACON, depending on what's decided by the community. Some of us on council have the opportunity to walk through the facility, and it's just amazing. Like, it's going to be such a boon for the northern suburbs to have that facility when it opens, and it's all on schedule to open in Feb 2024. And probably the most exciting thing to brag about is the new community hall that Deputy Mayor Aiken was referring to, that we hope to have an Indigenous name for, will be the most high-tech and most disability-friendly community hall in our city. So yeah, really privileged in the north to have this facility. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Any other councillors to comment? Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Mr Mayor, look, all I do is wish to acknowledge the community representatives that we've had that actually have assisted us to get to this point. It actually is really difficult to name something. I wouldn't actually want to put that responsibility against anybody. So I thank them for all the work they did. I thank the officers as well too, with their patience for us to actually reach the point of where we have as well too. And my only other comment I want to make is that through the chair to the CEO, can you correct what the council is actually publicising about the facility? The council keeps saying that it's a $61.6 million project. In fact, it's a $65.6 million project when the council actually gave an additional $4 million after the original budget allocation. So, in fact, the council contributed $48.8 million, and Councillor Nelson actually assisted us to get that extra $4 million because he said he wanted to actually see the benefits in the northern suburbs, because he made claims that both state and federal government didn't provide assistance to the northern suburbs. But it would be good to correct that information if it can be done.
Yeah, okay, with our dollars and cents. Thank you. With that, put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The alternative is carried. Item number 5, Ocean Grove District Ride Centre. Moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is to note the outcomes of the Ocean Grove District Ride Centre Community Reference Group and how this progressed to a preliminary and detailed design. Some very valuable work was done, and many suggestions from the reference group were adopted. And I'd like to commend the reference group and all of the officers that have been involved in this process. And this process did begin about 4 years ago during during COVID. It developed when improvised jumps began to proliferate, especially around Ocean Grove and Barwon Heads. And the city found itself managing, making safe or demolishing makeshift jumps at a great waste of resources and many threats to the environment. So after a long community engagement process, Kingston Park was noted by the Council as the preferred option amongst many others in the region, and that a community reference group be formed to assist in getting the optimum design suitable to all skill levels. And of course, it had to be one that would be the least intrusive to other users of the greater area of the park and to maintain access by walkers and dog owners. And the community reference group comprised 12 broad-based representative community members, including one member of our youth council. So many design parameters were considered, such as the multiple options for all ages and abilities, with a variety of activities and suitable for a variety of bikes. And other parameters were such that the nature of the trails would be inviting, with easy runs located at the entrance, and people could also have fun. There would be passive flow in the open space areas, and the district ride centre also would be safe and highly visible from all sides, providing passive surveillance. Mr Mayor, 2 members of the community reference group maintained their position. They didn't want the park, 2 of the 12, but they recognised that the design was of good quality, the design parameters were of acceptable and good quality. I'll leave it for other councillors to discuss.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Mason. It's certainly an incredible opportunity from a very challenging situation, and I really commend council officers and indeed the community reference group for working so hard to create such an incredible incredible plan, really. So detailed design of this is anticipated to be completed by mid-2024, and cost estimates for the initial concept plan prepared in 2022 were anticipated to exceed $1 million. October 2023 update indicates a likely construction cost in excess of $2.6 million. There's currently no budget allocation for the construction of this facility, but finalising this detailed design will progress the project to a shovel-ready state and be well positioned for budget consideration and external funding opportunities such as grants and election commitments. So I commend this report.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Any councillors to comment? I'll say quite a few words on this one. I'm a big supporter of this project, the Ocean Grove District Ride Centre. But I'm glad that we did go out for more consultation with the community, for community input, and I'd like to thank all the group members who were a part of this. I'd also like to thank everybody who had input into the surveys, into the quick polls, everybody who was a part of the Ocean Grove Bike Park Association as well. The engagement has been well noted amongst the community, that has been thorough, and that offices have been accessible. This was really, did come out of COVID. We have seen a massive jump in demand on our bicycle facilities across the entire municipality. And especially we see the upkeep of that, or the really telltale sign is the amount of illegal jumps being made in areas. We've some fantastic little engineers in our community, but we do want to make sure that when people are using these facilities, whether they're children's, young adults or adults, that they are safe and in a safe way. Especially when we have environmentally precious areas as we do along our coastline. I'm not saying that just people have purposely damaged environmentally sound areas, then not quite sure. I would believe they're doing it by accident, but we need to give them options, alternatives and outlets to undertake these activities, which is really a healthy option for physical exercise and skill development. And it's really what is needed, and we see across the state, whenever you do build a facility for cycling of a district or regional size and scale, people do travel to it. They will make the efforts, and they are all highly utilised. So it's something that's for our part of the world, especially the Bellarine, is sorely needed. So I'm very glad to see this will be at detailed design by mid-2024. perfect time for election commitments, and as you know, state funding by grants and whatnot from federal government as well. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think I'm correct in saying this first came about by a couple of the young Ocean Grove kids coming in and asking a question at council some years ago. And then there was a panel hearing that some of us sat on in here. I think that was pre-COVID. And then...
This has been around since 2020, yeah, around the time.
Yeah. Oh, that's COVID.
That's COVID, yeah.
February 2020.
Yeah, and so some of us... So I'm just... I think putting two and two together, that we're talking about the same one, and then of course a community panel was put together, and look, it's great to see it back in and progressing now and gaining some momentum. So the funding, of course, will be the challenge. So we'll see where that takes us. But yeah, it's a great initiative and a good result. We'll finally be able to ride a bike down there over the jumps at Ocean Grove.
Absolutely. No further councillors to comment. I'll go back to the mover, Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. And yes, there was quite a lot of what people would call argy-bargy, try to identify the optimum place, which turned out to be Kingston Park. And there were also some improvised jumps in Barwon Heads, Councillor Murray. And there were repeated attacks on the environment because they made good jumps just in those areas. But look, that's right, we do have to have this shovel ready, and we need to be ready to seize the opportunities of external funding. And I'm really pleased that it'll be by June this year that the final design will be submitted. And I do understand that we've got to do some more work with the Department of Transport and the city's traffic engineers to plan improved pedestrian and cyclist access and appropriate traffic treatments in that area. And that we also need to keep conscious of creating linkages to and from Kingston Park. So we've got other issues there with shared trails, and we need to continue to monitor the use of the toilets and the car park, which as use increases in time, there's no doubt there'll have to be upgrades there. So thanks again to all the staff and to the reference group, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mason. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Next one up, item 6, is Bellarine Arts Centre Community Asset Committee. I have that moved by Councillor Wilkinson, seconded by Councillor Mason. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to adopt the updated Bellarine Arts Centre terms of reference and to note the 2022-2023 annual report on the activities of the centre, which are astounding. So this has been now in operation for 21 years, and I've got to say it really pulls its weight in terms of the arts community down on the Bellarine and for the broader Geelong. We've seen 103,028 patrons, 38,640 school student visits, 97 performances of dance, theatre, circus, music, comedy, increase in school holiday activities and sell-out morning time shows. So appealing to all aspects and all generations across the 2022-2023 period. The Community Asset Committee manages the Bellarine Arts Centre in partnership with Bellarine Secondary College, St Ignatius College Geelong and the community. Minor changes are being made to the terms of reference to update names and titles, and these include changing the name from Bellarine Multi-Arts Facility to Bellarine Arts Centre, correcting the reference for the Roman Catholic Trust Corporation to the Melbourne Archdiocese Catholic Schools Limited Corporation, and removing reference to Manager Arts and Culture. And as I've spoken, the annual report includes a number of highlights discussed, and I think a return to pre-COVID numbers, which is really, it's really exciting.
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and Councillor Wilkinson's said it all. Just to re-emphasise, this is really only about a few minor changes. And so I've got an opportunity to say a bit more about the wonderful Ballerine Arts Centre, which that is the official name, but we like to call it the Potato Shed. And sometimes when news comes out of the potato shed, we call it Spud News. So when we want to have some finesse, and when we're applying for funds, of course we refer to our renowned Ballerine Arts Centre. And in this sense, I also, when I'm using the word finesse, I'd like to mention the staff, the dedicated staff there, Rob McLeod, Lisa Harvey, Penny Gough-Harper, and others such as Susan Nichols, Trent Arpit, and the many community volunteers. And there has been really good management of the potato shed, and 2023 was a wonderful year, and we're expecting to continue to encourage local artists, encourage innovation, and encourage uninhibited creativity. So we're looking forward to a season 24, which has an exciting array of theatre, cabaret, circus, dance and music, with special guests Jane Clifton, Tash York, Colin Mockett, OAM, Emma Donovan, stories of soul from family and country, and a return to the Spook Fest, which in this case is a spooky new adults only performance from cabaret provocateur Dolly Diamond. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr Mason, a lot of that was Spud News to me.
What date's it, Jim?
Any other councillors wish to speak on this item?
Car keys out.
If not, put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 7, Tourism Greater Geelong and the Ballerine Annual Report. Moved Deputy Mayor Aiken, seconded Councillor Mason. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I don't know why, before I could see Tracy Carter now, oh, there she is. I knew she was here somewhere. It's good that Tracy actually is here to actually hear all the councillors talk favourably about her beloved organisation. And in fact, we are receiving the annual report from Geelong, Greater, what do we call ourselves? Tourism Greater Geelong and the Ballerine Incorporated. Look, it's my pleasure as the portfolio holder for Stronger Economies to actually have tourism under my responsibilities as the chair, but I do acknowledge that our mayor is actually the representative on the board, and I thank him for his continuing support to the organisation. The report, why do we actually receive a report from Greater Geelong and the Ballerine Tourism Incorporated? Well, there's significant connections between council and this organisation. We fund it to the tune of $2.25 million every 12 months. So it's actually the largest, one of the largest contributions apart from the Library Corporation in terms of our commitments to service delivery areas in the city of Greater Geelong and economic support that we do. We also provide free rent to them as well too. So in fact, if we actually put a financial figure on it, it's quite sizable what council is actually doing for them. But why do we do that? Well, because tourism and the visit economy is one of the biggest drivers that we have in terms of our future of Geelong. And it was great to see this report actually has said that there was a significant rebound during 22-23 to such a level in terms of rebound of stays and tourism spend that it's now outpaced the pre-COVID era, which there's not many economic indicators in Geelong that have been able to do that. So congratulations to our tourism organisation. We've now got a spend of $1.6 billion in our local economy associated with tourism, which is fantastic. They're employing over 6,400 people directly in the tourism sector, and although some of these things I'm about to just talk about have happened in the last 4 to 5 months outside of the 22-23 period, it actually reflects the significant work that Tracy and her team are doing. Of course, in the last 12 months, the Spirit of Tasmania came to Geelong for the first time ever and has been an absolute fantastic addition to the tourism sector and economy in Geelong, with over 160,000 people, and the stats are really good to actually show those 160,000 people would not have ever come to Geelong except for the fact that the ferry actually now docks out in Corio Quay, which is a fantastic addition to our visitor economy in Geelong. We also had Bonza come to us. Even though they've received negative publicity in the last couple of weeks associated with they couldn't acquire an additional plane and had to cancel their Gold Coast areas. What has been fantastic is that Bonza is an incredible addition to our options that we have to bring people into the Geelong region as well too. And of course I do want to speak about accommodation. I can remember when I first started on the City of Greater Geelong, we only had the Mercure, and then we were fighting like hell to get Four Seasons, which eventually became the Novotel down on the waterfront. Well, in the last 4 months we've had 2 major hospitality and hotels open. The first, of course, was the Holiday Inn, which opened in the last 4 months, and the second, of course, is the Quest, which is the larger one that sits on top of the hill that has a better view over Geelong than what the Holiday Inn has. And they are a fantastic addition to the accommodation that is needed in Geelong. And in fact, of course, we've also got the Crown Plaza, which will be our premier 4.5-star, 5-star hotel, which is being built down on the convention site on the waterfront. So tourism continues to be a driver for the clever and creative future of Geelong. I congratulate everybody involved in the sector, but I personally continue to look forward to working with Tracy because I've really enjoyed it in the last 8 months. I hope she has as much as I have.
Thank you, Mayor Aiken. Councillor Mason, any new information to follow that one?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Aiken's covered it quite well, but it is a Bonza report, there's no doubt about that. And I'd also like to thank the board and Chair Bill Mithen and Tracy Carter and the 19 staff for their dedication and groundbreaking work. And it is great news that Geelong's visitor economies returned to pre-pandemic highs, contributing $1.6 billion to the local economy and employing 6,410 people in a diverse range of jobs across the region in the tourism and hospitality sector. And it's all in line, as you'll see in the report, with the global outlook and the sustainable development goals. And we're well placed to develop our visitor economy through the 10-year Sustainable Destination Master Plan, which includes advocacy, risk management, the development of a destination accessible program, and the Australian Federation of Disability Organisations. It also includes support of the Small Business Festival, a first members forum, and a new consumer website, rebranding Geelong and strengthening industry. And the continued development of Study Geelong is another great development to connect with international students. So the creative objectives such as enticing visitors to stay longer, to grow the midweek and shoulder seasons, and enhancing understanding of our local Indigenous cultures are all there. So I do recommend the report, and it's there online for everyone to access. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other councillors' comment? Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just going to step back in time a little bit, and which will probably allude to why Tourism Greater Geelong and the Bellarine is such a strong organisation today. I'm going to go back to, I guess, the early days of Roger Grant and Ross Stevens. Tracy was around the office at that time, and I dare say took away a few things he probably uses today and probably left a few behind. But I think it's also, then we had obviously John Stevenson came through, Brett Ince was there for a while, obviously with Tracy in the chair now and Bill Mithen down there. Like, it has been so well organised, so well run, and been such a great crew down there. They've worked in sync consistently over many, many years, even when, as it was then, Geelong Way Tourism were actually threatened with a huge split in the region. It caused quite a lot of angst about what Geelong should do, but unfortunately Tourism Greater Geelong in the Bellarine was formed, and it hasn't looked back, but I still think it's on the back of the foundation that was formed back in those earlier years, and we see the huge benefit that it actually now brings to the region. That will only continue to grow. People come down in Geelong and they get it almost a shock, for want of a better description, but they see the bay, the beach and the bush, and they think, well, how long has this been going on? And why don't we live down here? Or why don't we recreate down here more? Why don't we bring our family and friends and visitors from interstate, overseas here? When people do come here, they get quite a pleasant surprise about what we take for granted on many occasions. So, and it would have to be, Tourism Greater Geelong and the Bellarine would have to be one of the most awarded departments of council that I can imagine. It would have cupboards full of acknowledgements and trophies and plaques, and it has the wall of wine. that may be gone actually, but it truly is. It's one of the great shining lights of the council, and continues to do so. So thank you, Tracy. Keep up the good work.
Councillor Harwood. Any councillors comment? Councillor Murray?
I can't see anything different than what other councillors have said, but the CEO is here. I can't see her actually, but I just want to ask the CEO when the much anticipated traditional Christmas video hits the socials. It's out. It's out? It's out. It's online. Okay, we'll have a good, because it's obviously a highlight every year.
Excellent. All right. Everyone's got plenty of good things to say. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to just quickly say that it was when we changed from Tourism Greater Geelong, Geelong Otway Tourism to TGGB, that's easier to say, was in 2014, and we fought with the then state government for funding, and that was really tough to get that over the line, but we managed to do so, and as Councillor Harwood said, we've never looked back. I just wanted to touch on Avalon. Prior to COVID, we had AirAsia flying to KL, CityLink very briefly flying to Bali, and now we've got Bonza. Yes, they've only got 4 planes, but they'll get more. They've got Bazza, Shazza, Mel and Sheila, and I've flown on a couple of them, came back this afternoon on one, that's why my face is red. And Bonza, they are great. So get on board Bonza at Avalon Airport. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Oh, and thank you to the ED, Tracy.
Thank you. All right, Paul, good. I'll throw back to Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Look, because we're taking a trip down memory lane, I'm actually happy to say that I predated Councillor Harwood, and it was actually called Geelong and Great Ocean Road Tourism. And it was actually started by the great Graham Goldsworthy, who was the chair, and I was pleased to be on the council in 1995 when we first funded and supported, in fact, Graham's still fondly seen as the father and patron. He is now deceased, but I have one great pleasure that Graham gave me. I actually married his business manager, so I will be ever grateful for tourism in Geelong. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 8 on the agenda is our Community Plan Quarterly Report, September 2023. Looking for a mover in Councillor Contell, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, this report, I'll consider it read. It contains the progress that we've made in terms of the initiatives and priorities that we're working on over a 4-year period. There's some 75 actions in the plan, and this report provides a status on that. I'll leave it at that because I'm sure the councillors will want to talk to various.
Councillor Contell, Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This quarterly report is only for noting that it is great to see that it provides a progress report on some of the key priorities, which all seem like they're going in the right direction. I can list some of those now. The actions that are on track, in fact, include the construction of the new 3-level Armstrong Creek Library, BLR, I think, Armstrong Creek Library, construction of the new accessible multi-sport pavilion as part of the Lara Recreation Reserve Master Plan, Stage 2, design work on improvements to the All Abilities Access at Grovedale Hall and the Drysdale Community Hub, and the opening of Section 1 of the Sparrow Vale Wetland Reserve. Oh, I'm going to get this wrong. Nubichi Yuri? Probably. Looking at Councillor Maloney, she may want to correct me in a moment. And partnering with the RNet to provide community facilities and public spaces with access to high-speed internet from Geelong to Ballerine, as well as delivering public Wi-Fi and enhanced broadband across the northern suburbs. So there's for everyone there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillors to comment? I'll just speak in support of, the visibility and transparency we have in bringing these community planning quarterly reports is very important, not only to us, but to the community. And this transparency and accountability is incredibly important. It's something we hear about quite a lot in government, especially local government. So, showing our souls to the community and saying what we're doing, what's on track, what we can do a little bit better in, is vital to what we do here. So it's good to have it, again, once before us. If no other councillors comment, I'll throw back to Councillor Contell.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. All those against? No one's against. It's carried. All right. Item number 9, we have T2300116, grinding and decontamination services. I have a mover in Councillor Nelson. Do I have a seconder in Councillor Contell?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to seek a deferral of this particular agenda item this evening.
All right. Do you have a seconder for the deferral? Yep. All right. Put that one to the vote. Sorry.
So, I'd actually like to speak on the deferral, which we're entitled to under Procedure 3.44 of the governance rules. If you look up, this is actually, and a deferral is actually an adjournment of the item, is the proper terminology, not a deferral, but I actually would like to speak on the deferral, if that's okay, please, as per my right under governance procedures. Yeah.
3.44.
3.44 is actually procedural motions, and then we have a table which actually outlines
this is
procedural motions.
Number 1, isn't it? Yeah.
And this is number 2 because it's the adjournment of the item, and if you actually have a look at it, it does give you the right to be able to speak on a deferral, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
Certainly contrary to advice we've been given in past meetings.
It is indeed, but we don't actually have, public governance rules just for deferrals. Actually does come under procedural motions or another.
Guidance from our governance officer would probably be best.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's Jack. Governance has confirmed when we have moved deferrals in the past where they do come under 3.44, either 1 or 2. Debate can continue, but it must remain solely on the matter of a deferral, not the actual subject matter of the report itself. So people wish to speak to it can speak to it, but they can only speak to the subject of being deferred.
Mayor, could I just clarify, where does it actually specify that in the governance rule?
Oh, procedurals, sorry.
I know where the procedural motion is listed, but where does it specify that debate can continue?
He's moving it under procedural motion 2, which then continues. Motion and amendment postponed. That may be resumed. Yeah. Under 1.
Yep, reading of that is it's only debate only continues if the effect is lost.
a closure motion if it is under an adjournment to debate indefinitely or adjournment to debate at a later time. It doesn't go straight to closure. The interpretation from the Governance Office is that it can be spoken to about the deferral, not the subject matter. That's the advice we've received. Therefore, Deputy Mayor Aiken has the floor.
I wish to speak in favour of the deferral. There's been a convention in the City of Greater Geelong that if a councillor requests a deferral, that if it's the first time it's been presented, that the council group actually do support a deferral, and that's why I actually would like the opportunity to speak as I have now, because I actually support the deferral request. It's the first time it's been asked before the council group by this particular councillor on this particular motion, and I think it's a convention that should be upheld and continued, Mr. Mayor.
A couple of firsts in this one. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors wish to speak to the subject of deferral? I'll put that straight to the vote then. All those in favour of the deferral of topic 9 this evening? All those against? Deferral is carried. Number 10, I believe we have conflict of interest, Councillor Contell. Thank you. For the next 2 items. So we'll come to get you after these 2 items are done. Item number 10 this evening is T23000124, Barnett Boulevard, Boundary Road intersection construction. Do I have a mover for this one? Councillor Nelson, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Harwood. Councillor Nelson.
Mayor, I'll just talk briefly on this. It's just toward a contract for the construction of the Barnett Boulevard and Boundary Road intersection, down in Warm Ponds. It also will include a pedestrian link to the Warm Ponds train station at a cost of $5.3 million. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood.
Again, just essential infrastructure required out in this particular area as the population growth continues to expand. So support this recommendation that we continue to develop that area and make it safe and accessible and increase the connectivity. Thank you.
We like. Another councillor wish to comment on this? If not, Councillor Nelson to close.
Thanks, Mayor. My only real concern is that it's only a pedestrian link, so there'll be a big set of traffic lights at the end of Boundary Road, which will create an opportunity for the people of Armstrong Creek to use the Warm Ponds train station. But on the other side of Barnett Boulevard, on the north side, there's no road for the cars to get across there. There's no car park, so everyone will just park out the front of the Lifestyle Mountainade Village. That's all I'll call it, because I'm of the age where I can attend that village. So I won't call it a retirement home, which will concern the people, the residents of that village. So hopefully we can work with the state government to build that second stage of a road on the north side of Barnett Boulevard and a subsequent car park. I think that's the best outcome for the residents of Armstrong Creek. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. And with that, put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 11, T23000133, provision of general maintenance to council-owned buildings. Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to report the award panel contract delivering general maintenance of council-owned facilities. There's 3 successful tenderers that are noted there. Obviously, general maintenance of council-owned facilities is a massive task and would be, I would suggest, 24/7. So it's important that we do this well. I'm really delighted to all the successful tenderers in this case operate their businesses within the Geelong region. They're all locally owned and operated, and obviously providing local employment and economic benefits, which I'm glad to see council engaging in that. The contract's for 3-year terms, option of 12 months, 2 12-month extensions. So it's around about a $5 million plus contract that we'll be deciding this evening. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Mr Mayor, thank you. Look, my only comment is it was actually fascinating to see the three preferred tenderers, because at least two of them regularly actually construct the work for us in terms of rendering and track constructions. So it's really good to see that not only do they want to build the investments for us, they actually want to look after them as well too in terms of general maintenance of them. So I was actually pleased that there may be some consistency in terms of delivery of service and quality of work that's been undertaken with the panel that's been established.
Thank you. Any other councillors to comment? Councillor Howard to close.
Thank you.
Nothing further. We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 12 is CEO Employment and Remuneration Council Policy Review. I'm happy to move this one, seconded by Deputy Mayor Aiken. So what we really have here is a refresh of the review, bringing us into industry best practice right now. We have things about KPIs and performance plans and relevant matters.
Oh, Mr Mayor, do we have to wait for Councillor Aiken?
We do. You're quite correct. Thank you, Councillor Harwood.
He may want to
weigh in on this one.
Chip on this one?
Yep, we'll wait for him. We're excited. We all get very excited about the CEO, Employment and Remuneration Policy. I'll get back to that. So the recommendation for item 12 essentially is we revoke the existing policy. We note terms of reference for the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee to be brought to Council for endorsement. This is a refresh to be bringing along with industry best practice, including some key changes around a mid-year review. Who chairs the committee? There's already an independent member on the committee, but it's now best practice that they will be entrusted usually with greater responsibility and will chair it themselves. A tidy up around procedural provisions relating to recruitment and scope and services of that member, and correcting references to positions and roles within the organisation stemming from recent structural alignments. Terms of reference, as said, for the committee, they're currently being developed and will be brought back to Council for that endorsement. With that, Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Even though it's called a review, it is a significant change. The significant policy change, of course, is that the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee will now be chaired by an independent member, so it actually won't be a council, it will be the chair of that particular committee. It is unusual for a council to normally do that. However, this is actually the preferred practice from the Office of Local Government, and if you look at the papers that they've put out in relation to how a council should establish a CEO Employment and Remuneration policy, it actually does talk about that good governance at the present time is maintained and activated if you do have an independent chair of this particular committee. And part of that is because there is a concern in the industry that there's too close a relationship between CEOs and councillors, and there has been evidence brought before IBAC and the Chief Minister and Inspector where CEOs have actually not been properly managed and made accountable by these particular committees. And of course the most recent one was the example of credit card usage and ultimately the demise of that particular CEO in regional Victoria, who had been there a long time as well too in terms of his tenure. So it is good that Council has undertaken a review in support by our monitors. I think it is important to acknowledge that Monitor Digby has done a significant amount of work in relation to this document with our own legal counsel internally, and Vesna Allen has left for the night, but it is important to acknowledge that our legal counsel has actually looked at the best practices, has looked at the preferred policy document that's been presented into the industry by the Office of Local government and consulted with Monitor Digby and I assume Monitor Dorling as well too. So we can have confidence that the policy that is being presented tonight and to the community for the first time as well too will give the best governance outcome in terms of accountability and performance and selection processes going forward of CEOs for the City of Greater Geelong. And I look forward to who that new independent chair may possibly be, because I think we're proposing that the change will occur in May of next year. So it's a significant change for the independent member that currently sits on that committee now. They may not actually be the right person going forward with these new structures that have been put in place, but that's a choice that the council will have to make, and the individuals that put themselves forward to be the independent chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors to comment? Go back to myself to close. Nothing further. That's odd to do. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. All right, that is the closure of section 2, I believe. So now we've got section 4, record of informal meetings of councillors. Can please have a mover and seconder to record the informal meetings of councillors? Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Councillor Hathaway. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. Section 5, planning delegations. A mover and seconder for planning delegations. Moved Councillor Mason, seconded Councillor Harwood. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. We have an item on here being section 6, confidential, proposed sale or lease of 151 Mercer Street, Geelong Civic Precinct. Companies have a move and seconded to consider this matter in confidential. Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Councillor Nelson. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried in confidential. We are now to consider the remaining agenda items in our confidential section of the meeting. So I need to close the meeting to the public. Can I please have a mover and seconder? Councillor Nelson moving, seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Thank you all. I would like to thank both our virtual and I just missed our last in-person gallery member for their participation tonight. Boy, was there a lot of participation, but we love seeing the community, we love seeing them engaged in our meetings and what we're doing here. And so for the last one of the year, thank you everybody who has joined us. Take care.